My name is Emma, and I'm 29 years old. 2 years ago, my husband looked me in the eyes on our 5th wedding anniversary and said 3 words that ended everything I thought I had built. I love her. Not me, her. I was a photographer, someone who spent her entire professional life learning to see light, shadow, the truth on a person's face when they thought nobody was watching. I noticed everything. Except this. We had a reservation at Luca. Small, Italian, candlelit, our restaurant. 5 years of anniversaries at the same corner table. I had worn a deep green dress I had been saving for months. Pearl earrings Ryan had given me on our 3rd anniversary. Getting ready in our bathroom that evening, I had been genuinely happy. The quiet, durable happiness of a life that had taken a shape you recognized as yours. I remember thinking that, standing in front of the mirror, genuinely happy. I want you to hold on to that detail because of what came next. Ryan was quiet in the Uber. I noticed, but didn't pull at it. He was sometimes quiet before important occasions. I had always read it as a kind of gathering, the way some people go still before something significant. I reached over and put my hand over his. He didn't turn his palm up to hold mine. I noticed that too, filed it somewhere I wasn't ready to open yet. The restaurant was warm and golden, exactly as it always was. Our usual table, corner, candlelit. The waiter, Carlo, who had been there all 5 years, smiled when he saw us. "Buonasera, anniversary, yes?" "Yes," I said. Ryan said nothing. We ordered wine. I talked about a shoot I had coming up, a family in Brooklyn, 3 kids and a golden retriever and a brownstone roof that caught the late afternoon light perfectly. I was excited about it. I talked with my hands the way I always did when excited. Ryan watched me, not the way he used to, with that particular warm attention that had made me feel like the most interesting person in any room. This was different. The watching of someone who has already decided something and is measuring the moment to say it. I stopped talking mid-sentence. "What's wrong?" I said. He picked up his wine glass, set it down without drinking. "Emma," his voice was careful, rehearsed. "I need to tell you something. There's someone. I love her. I didn't plan it, but I love her and I can't." "Who?" I said. Not a question, a demand. He finally looked at me. "Sophia," he said. The candle flickered between us. Sophia, my best friend since college, my bridesmaid, the woman who had cried genuine tears standing 3 feet from me while I made my vows, the woman with keys to our apartment who had sat at our table 100 times, who had toasted to Ryan and Emma, the best marriage she had ever witnessed up close, at this exact restaurant on my birthday last March. I picked up my bag. I stood up. "Don't come home tonight," I said. My voice was completely level. I was proud of that and furious that I had to be. I walked out of Luca into the cold October night and stood on the sidewalk and breathed. The city moved around me. Taxis, voices, the smell of rain on pavement, completely indifferent to the small private devastation of a single person standing on a single sidewalk. I had nowhere to go. That was the thing that hit me, standing there in my green dress. The person I would have called, the person I always called when something was wrong, was Sophia. I started walking. Block after block, heels on wet pavement, going nowhere, just moving because movement was the only thing that wasn't standing still in the wreckage. Somewhere around the 14th block, I started to cry, quietly, without drama, the way you cry when you are alone on a city street and there is nobody to perform grief for, just the tears and the cold and the sound of my own footsteps. The thing about betrayal is that it rewrites the past. I woke up alone in my own bed the next morning, and I did not think about tomorrow. I thought about 3 years ago. Ryan and I had met at a gallery opening in Chelsea. I was shooting the event professionally. moving through the crowd with my camera, doing the invisible work of documentation. He was there with friends, holding a glass of wine he kept forgetting to drink because he kept getting distracted by the work on the walls. I noticed him noticing the photographs. That was what drew me first. Not his face, but the quality of his attention. He stood in front of a large black and white print for almost 4 minutes, actually looking, not performing appreciation. I photographed him without his knowledge. A man standing alone in front of a photograph, caught in genuine looking. It's in a folder on my hard drive still. I should have trusted that first image more than everything that came after. I got up and made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, Ryan's coffee mug still in the drying rack, a detail that hit me like something physical, and I opened my phone. 18 months of messages between Ryan and Sophia. I will not describe what I found in detail because some things once described cannot be undescribed. What I will tell you is that it had been 18 months, a year and a half. Sophia had been in our home during those 18 months, had sat at this table, had used that mug, had asked about my marriage and listened to my answers, knowing what she knew. I put my phone face down on the table. 18 months. I laid every dinner, every weekend, every ordinary Tuesday evening of the past year and a half out in my mind like contact sheets, the photographer's instinct, organizing images into sequence, and I looked at them with new information. Ryan suggesting gently, consistently, that maybe Sophia and I didn't need to spend quite so much time together. She can be a lot, Emma. You don't have to make her your whole social life. Said while looking genuinely concerned, said while knowing exactly what he was doing, creating distance between us so we would compare notes less. I pressed my hand flat on the table. Sophia and I had been friends since the first week of college, assigned to the same orientation group by alphabetical accident. She was Sophia Carver, I was Emma Chen, and something had clicked immediately. She was the first person I had called when I got my first professional photography assignment. She had talked me through my mother's illness 2 years ago, sitting on my couch for 3 consecutive weekends while I processed grief in pieces. She was the person I had trusted for 11 years without question, and she had looked me in the eyes for 18 months and chosen every single day to keep doing it while looking like my best friend. That was the thing I couldn't get past. Not Ryan. Ryan's betrayal was devastating, but it had the shape of something I could eventually name and grieve. What Sophia had done was different. She had performed our friendship deliberately, knowingly, for a year and a half. I called in sick to work. Tried to eat, couldn't finish the toast. Tried to read, couldn't find my place in any of the 3 books on my nightstand. Tried to work, opened my editing software, saw photographs of a couple, closed it immediately. Ryan texted at 10:15. Can we talk? I put my phone in a drawer. I stood at my living room window and looked at the street below. Everything in this apartment had been chosen with him in mind. Even the green dress, still hanging on the bathroom door, was green because he had once said he loved me in it. I took the dress off the door and put it in a bag by the front door. I didn't know where it was going. I just knew it couldn't stay. November arrived the way it does in New York, without apology. I filed for divorce on a Thursday in late October, sat across from a calm lawyer named Patricia who treated the whole process with matter-of-fact efficiency that I found, unexpectedly, comforting. Ryan didn't contest anything. That was its own answer about the marriage, how quickly he was willing to let it go. Sophia's voicemail sat unlistened in my phone like something I was not ready to open. I left it there. Every day I didn't listen felt like a small act of self-preservation. I had started therapy in November. Dr. Okafor, Nigerian-American, precise and warm in equal measure, with a fig tree outside her window and the ability to ask questions so exactly right that answers arrived before I had consciously decided to give them. In our 3rd session, she asked, "When did you stop trusting your own perception?" I had been quiet for a long time. "Gradually," I said finally. So gradually I didn't notice it happening. That's usually how it works, she said. The morning Ryan came for his things, I went to work deliberately. The Brooklyn family shoot. 3 kids and a golden retriever and a roof that caught the late afternoon light perfectly. I needed the discipline of seeing, the requirement to be present for someone else's joy while carrying my own wreckage. I came home to an apartment half empty in specific ways. His side of the closet, the shelf where he kept his books, the coffee mug gone from the drying rack. I stood in the kitchen and looked at the space where the mug had been. Then I went across the hall and knocked on Margaret's door. The woman was perhaps 65, silver hair, practical, wearing a cardigan the color of autumn leaves, burnt orange, the color that belongs to October. She was carrying a canvas bag clearly too heavy, listing to one side, managing simultaneously the bag, her keys, and a small terracotta pot threatening to slip from under her arm. She looked up when my door opened. "Oh, good," she said, with the directness of someone who had long since stopped performing politeness. "Could you hold this?" She held out the terracotta pot before I had agreed to anything. I took it, automatically, the way you do. "Thank you." She locked her door efficiently, looked at me properly, the inventory look of someone assessing without being rude. Yesterday's makeup, hair half up, half down, camera around my neck from habit with no plan. "Rough night?" she said. Not a question. "Rough night," I agreed. "Margaret," she said. "I've been across the hall 4 months and we've said hello 6 times. That seems like enough of an introduction." "Emma," I said. "Are you going somewhere or just going?" she said. "Just going," I said honestly. "Then walk with me to the farmer's market. I need someone to carry the heavy bag on the way back, and you look like you need somewhere to be." It was the most practical offer of kindness I had ever received. "Okay," I said. The farmer's market was 4 blocks away in the small park where dog walkers gathered in the mornings. October had turned it extraordinary, stalls full of hard squash and late apples and chrysanthemums in every shade of rust and gold, the air smelling of wood smoke and warm cider. Margaret moved through it with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what she wanted. She bought apples, a whole bag, specific variety, rejected 3 before finding the right ones. She did not make small talk while she shopped. She simply moved and chose and occasionally said something direct and true. I walked beside her and held things when asked and pointed my camera at whatever caught my eye. The texture of a rough-skinned squash, a child's hand reaching for a sample, the way October light fell across a pile of late tomatoes. I had not planned to take photographs, but the camera was in my hands and the light was extraordinary, and something in me that had gone very still was beginning, tentatively, to move. "You're good," Margaret said, watching me frame a shot. "I make a living," I said. "That's not what I said." Her eyes were clear and sharp. "I said you're good. Those are different things." I lowered the camera. She handed me a cup of warm cider from a vendor, bought without my noticing. "Drink that. Sugar helps with shock. It's not a medical fact, but it should be." I laughed, the first genuine laugh in 24 hours, small and surprised, like something finding a crack in the ice. That evening, I knocked on her door because my apartment smelled of nothing, and hers smelled of everything. Something with rosemary, music playing softly, the particular warmth of a place that had been lived in well. She put a bowl of soup in front of me without asking, and sat across with her book and didn't require me to be anything other than what I was. A person who had lost something large and needed somewhere warm to be. When I finished, she refilled the bowl without asking. I thought, this is the lowest point. Half-empty apartment, missing coffee mug, eating soup in my neighbor's kitchen because I couldn't be alone in my own. But even as I thought it, I understood something else, small and important, the size of a soup bowl. I was not entirely alone. There was a woman across the hall who had left the light on. Margaret had a son named Daniel. She mentioned him casually over coffee one Sunday morning in December. An architect, called every Sunday without fail, visited once a month, almost unreasonably decent, which I cannot entirely take credit for. She said he thought about light the way I did. I filed it away without attaching anything to it. I met him in November in the hallway. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the same quality of stillness his mother had. The stillness not of emptiness, but of depth. Someone with a great deal going on underneath who had learned to be quiet about it. He was carrying groceries. "You must be Emma," he said. "You must be Daniel," I said. He smiled, slow, genuine, starting in the eyes before it reached anywhere else. "She talks about you," he said. "She talks about you too," I said. "Probably more accurately," he said. I laughed, and felt startled by the laugh, the way you do in early grief when laughter arrives unexpectedly and feels like a small betrayal of the sadness. He noticed. Daniel noticed things quietly, without making a production of it. He didn't push past it. He just let the moment be what it was. "She's making too much food," he said. "If you haven't eaten, you should come." I went. Margaret had candles on the table. She believed firmly that candles were daily necessities, not special occasion items. The conversation moved the way good conversation does, without agenda, landing wherever it landed. Daniel talked about a project he was working on, a community library in the Bronx, all natural light and open sightlines, designed to feel like an invitation rather than an institution. I asked him about the light. He looked slightly surprised, pleased but surprised. "Most people ask about the structure," he said. "Your mother said you think about light," I said. He thought for a moment. "Light is what tells people whether they're welcome. Before a single word is spoken, before anyone has greeted them or turned them away, the light has already told them, stay or bow, you belong here or you don't." I set down my fork. "I've been thinking about that exact idea for 2 years," I said, "in photography." He looked at me with those steady, attentive eyes. "Tell me," he said. I told him about the way I thought about light in photographs, not as illumination but as language, the way a subject lit from behind felt vulnerable, the way soft sidelight felt like intimacy, like being seen at an angle that was kind, the way harsh overhead light flattened everything, made people look like less than the truth. He listened completely. When I finished, he was quiet. Not the silence of someone who hasn't heard you, but the silence of someone turning something over carefully. "You should see the library when it's done," he said. "I think you'd understand what I was trying to do." "I'd like that," I said. Spring arrived, and something in me arrived with it. The book project I had been turning over for years, a photography book about light and welcome, about the way spaces signaled belonging before a word was spoken, had taken real shape. 60 photographs, a loose sequence, a narrative arc. I had been shooting with focus and intention I hadn't felt in years. Daniel came to look at the new work on a Saturday afternoon in late March. He sat on my couch and went through the photographs with the same slow attention he gave everything. He reached one, Margaret's kitchen table, the morning light through the window, 2 coffee cups, and the quality of light saying, "Someone is expected here," and he stopped. "This one," he said. "I know," I said. "This should be the cover," he said. "I was afraid it was too quiet," I said. "The quiet ones are the ones that last," he said. We were sitting close together. At some point, the distance between us had become very small. He turned to look at me. I turned to look at him. The afternoon light came through my window at that particular late March angle, warm and tentative, the light of something beginning. "Emma," he said. "I know," I said. He reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear with a gentleness so deliberate it went all the way through me, not just the touch but the intention behind it, the patience of someone who had been waiting for the right moment and recognized it when it arrived. "Is this okay?" he said. "Yes," I said. He kissed me softly, carefully, the way you do when something is new and worth being careful with. "I've wanted to do that since November," he said. "I know," I said for the 3rd time. He laughed, surprised and genuine. "You knew?" I said. "I'm a photographer. I notice things." Margaret brought it up on a Wednesday evening in May. Just the 2 of us. Tea and a jigsaw puzzle spread between us, a hopper print, all light and quiet and American solitude. She put down a piece she had been considering. "I want to talk to you about something," she said, something prepared in her tone, something considered. "Okay," I said. "Daniel and I have been talking. About you. About what this year has been." She held her tea. "I'd like to adopt you, legally, as my daughter, if that's something you would want." The room was very quiet. The Hopper puzzle pieces spread between us, the tea steaming softly, the city doing its evening things outside. I looked at Margaret who had held out a terracotta pot in a hallway before she knew my name, who had handed me warm cider at a farmer's market and not required me to explain my tears, who had put soup in front of me in the worst week of my life and refilled the bowl without asking, who had made Sunday mornings a place I could come to without earning my welcome. "Adult adoption," she said gently. "It would make you, officially, permanently, my daughter, Daniel's sister." A small pause. "Family." My throat closed. "Why?" I said, genuinely needing to understand. She chose her words carefully. "Because you have been treated as though you were replaceable and expendable," she said, "and I want you to have something that says, on paper, permanently, legally, that you are not." I was crying. The good kind, the deep kind. "Yes," I said, "I want that. I would very much like that." She came around the table and held me properly, the embrace of someone who means it, and I pressed my face into her orange cardigan and breathed and thought, this is what a mother feels like. The court date was a Tuesday in August, 11 minutes to make official what had already been true since a hallway in November. The judge signed, the clerk stamped. We went to the small Italian restaurant near her building. Not Luca, a different place with no history we were about to give some. Daniel ordered champagne. Margaret said it was excessive. She drank 2 glasses. "To the Reyes family," Daniel said. Reyes, Margaret's name. My name now. I sat at that table with my family. My family, words I was still learning to say. And I thought about October, about the candlelit restaurant and 3 words and the green dress and the sidewalk and the nowhere to go. About how nowhere had turned out to be 6 blocks from a hallway where a woman in an autumn cardigan was struggling with a terracotta pot. I had held it, and in holding it I had found everything. The call from Sophia came on a Thursday in October, exactly 1 year after the anniversary dinner. "Emma," her voice unchanged, "please don't hang up." "I'm not going to hang up," I said. My voice was level. "I need to see you. I need to explain." "You don't need to explain," I said. "I understand what happened." "Emma, I'm getting married, to Ryan. I want you to come." "Sophia," I said, "stop." She stopped. I looked at my desk. Daniel's library photographs, all that carefully built light. "I'm not coming to the wedding. I think you understand why." "Yes," she said quietly. "And I'm not able to be your friend right now. Maybe not ever, I don't know yet. What you did wasn't just to Ryan and me. You looked me in the eyes for 18 months and chose every single day to keep doing it. That's what I can't get past." "I know," she said, raw now, stripped of preparation. "I know that's what I did." "I hear that, and I believe you, but sorry doesn't change what happened, and it doesn't mean I have to give you something I'm not ready to give." A long silence. "Not right now," I said gently. I hung up. I sat quietly for a moment. Then I called Margaret. "Come for dinner," she said immediately. "There's too much food, as always." That was rather the point. There is a particular light that comes in late October. Not the dramatic golden light of early autumn that everyone photographs and calls beautiful. The late October light is different, quieter, lower in the sky, coming through bare branches at an almost horizontal angle, touching things sideways rather than from above. It does not make things more beautiful than they are. It makes them exactly as they are, clear, specific, real. It is the most honest light of the year. I have always loved it best. I woke early on a Thursday morning. The baby had shifted in the night, a small movement I was still learning to read, the particular language of a person becoming, and I lay in the half-dark listening to James breathing beside me. James, my colleague who had been quietly, consistently present across 18 months of rebuilding, who had asked me to dinner in April with a directness I found refreshing, who was not dramatic or performative, but simply, steadily, genuinely there, who had received the news of the pregnancy not with fear or complication, but with pure, open gladness. I got up and made tea and took it to the window seat, a small built-in bench I had finally allowed myself to make comfortable, the kind of corner I had always wanted and never felt entitled to create. I held the tea with both hands. I pressed my other hand flat against my stomach. There is room for you, I thought. You are expected here. You are already loved. I thought about Ryan, not with bitterness. The bitterness had burned through long ago, processed in Dr. O'Coffer's office into something more useful, a clearer understanding of what I had contributed and what I would not repeat. I thought about him with the mild, distant wish that he was doing well, that he and Sophia had found what they were looking for. I let them go, fully, finally, on a Thursday morning in late October. I wished them well and let them go. I thought about the book. The Light Before Words had been in the world for 19 months now. It had found its readers, not explosively, but in the slow, durable way of something that keeps being discovered, keeps being pressed into the hands of people who need it. Emails still came. I still read every one. A woman in Edinburgh who had read the book 5 times and said the introduction, the one about the hallway and the terracotta pot, had given her language for something she had not been able to name. An architect in Seoul who had redesigned a community center entrance after reading the chapter on thresholds. A teacher in Sao Paulo who used the introduction in her design class because she wanted her students to understand that spaces were never neutral, that every room was making an argument about who belonged there. I was reaching people I would never meet with something true that I had made from something painful. The alchemy of that still moved me. It always would. James came into the kitchen at 7:15, exactly when he always did, reliable and unhurried, the specific safety of a person who shows up the same way every day. He saw me at the window. "You're up early," he said. "Grateful thinking," I said. He put his arm around me. I leaned into him. We stood at the window and watched the honest October light move across the city below, touching everything sideways, making nothing more beautiful than it was, making everything exactly as it was, real and specific, and ours. The baby moved. James felt it too, his hand finding mine, and we stood in the window and said nothing because there was nothing to say that the moment had not already said more completely. If you are watching this and you have been betrayed by the people you trusted most, if you have stood on a sidewalk in a dress you saved for an occasion that broke your heart, with nowhere to go and no one to call, I want to say something to you. It is not the end. What feels like devastation is sometimes the necessary clearing, the removal of what was not working to make room for what will. The gap between the life you thought you had and the life you were actually living, that gap, painful as it is also information. It is telling you something true. Trust it. Family is not always the people you started with. Sometimes family is the woman across the hall who hands you a terracotta pot before she knows your name. The person who puts soup in front of you and refills the bowl without asking. The one who looks at your work, the work you have been minimizing and apologizing for and keeping small, and says simply, don't minimize it, like it is the most obvious thing in the world. I spent 2 years learning what love actually looks like, not the performed version, the real one, the consistent, ordinary Tuesday evening version, the version that is still there when the electricity fades, and what remains is just 2 people choosing each other in the quiet. That love exists. It is real. It is available to you, not despite what you have been through, sometimes because of it, because loss, survived, teaches you what you actually want, because the second version, built with that knowledge, can be more fully and completely yours than anything you had before. Hold on for the hallway. Hold on for the terracotta pot. Hold on for the person who refills your bowl. If this story reached you, if something in it touched something in you, please take a moment to like and subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. These stories find the people who need them through you. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what time it is there. Tell me if you have had to build your own table from scratch. I read every single comment. Until then, remember, you are expected. You always were.